Hello Internet, and welcome to my live reaction for Yona of the Dawn, chapter 223. When we last left our heroes, after Kaji brought his reinforcements, Yona ended up giving the order for the Wind and Fire tribes who were flanking Kura-U's army to retreat, ending up kind of overstepping Soo-Won's authority. But both Soo-Won and Kaizuk end up acknowledging that she had to, given Soo-Won's quickly deteriorating health. But then, Yona is going to have the archers provide cover for the tribes to escape, but we learn that Kaji brings his own catapults, which wreaks havoc through the archers, until someone, who is definitely not named Hak, cuts the ropes of the catapults, leading it to just be a bit more of an infantry problem. But the Kai army is still sort of chasing after the Wind tribe, and Hande goes back to give the rest of the tribe time to escape, even at the probable loss of his own life. And right when all hope seems lost, the banner carrier for the South Kai army ends up defending Hande. And when he is brought before General Kaji, we learn what we all kind of figured: that's Hak, who is here to, fuck shit up. So with that said, let's dive right on into chapter 223. We pick up with Yona, who is still not quite clear on what's going on, because she doesn't really know that Hak is back. And she comments, the South Kai reinforcements pursuing the Wind tribe have stopped, but she doesn't know why they've stopped. And we see Soo-Won, who is just haggard. Like, he's not long for this world. And Kaizuk comments, you're right. Have the Wind tribe pulled through? And Yona thinks to herself, I can't see clearly from here. What on earth is going on? And we see what's going on, of course, is Hak squaring down with Kaji. Chapter 223, it's all or nothing. And Kaji asks him, are you really a soldier of South Kai? And Hande appears somewhat uncertain as to Hak's identity. He thinks he knows, but he's still so shocked to see Hak like this that he hasn't quite put the pieces together. That's Hak, isn't it? Is he on some sort of mission? But Hak just stares Kaji down. One of the soldiers tells Kaji, General Kaji, I've never seen this person before. And Kaji tells him he said he's from General Ra-an's army. I found him in a nearby village. A deserter. And Hak sort of approaches Kaji. General Kaji. Oh no, this isn't Kaji. It's Ra-an. What is the matter? And we see Ra-an battered, beaten, having bandages over one eye. His arm is still broken. We'll see if Ra-an feels like he owes Hak any debt for saving his life back during the fall of Kim Province. But the soldiers all kind of freeze. It's General Ra-an. I heard the rumors, but he looks really bad. He dueled with a strong warrior before the flood. Yeah, he sure fucking did. And guess who's here right now? But Kaji tells him, General Ra-an, don't push yourself too hard with these wounds. But you've come in a good time. This man, he says, referring to Hak, of course. Have you seen him before? Which, the answer there is technically yes, but not really in the way Kaji means it. And Hak just sort of, looks at Ra-an there, and Ra-an is shocked to see Hak back on the battlefield. And Kaji clarifies, he said he's from your army, but... And Ra-an looks away. And then Hak looks at Ra-an. And doesn't even pretend to still be part of Ra-an's army. It doesn't allow Ra-an to cover for him, which I thought might have been the route that this story beat took. Because Hak says, those ain't the injuries I caused, are they? Who did this? And Ra-an is shocked at Hak noting that. That did look a little bit more brutal, more beat up than we saw him back in 215. So I guess that, he took some kind of punishment for not really a loss. He won. He won the Battle of Kim Province. But I guess not winning in the right way or something? Who did this to a strong fighter like you, General Ra-an? And we see this bit with this flashback with Chagol. Even though you flooded the area, you failed to take control of the Kim province. You're a useless warrior, Ra-an. My wrath is immeasurable. Die! And Chagol just kicks at Ra-an And one of the 8 generals we met before, the eye patch guy, is that Haitan? He's not the one who went stealth into the Koka capital to go rescue Maignan. But we have seen him before. I think he was Haitan. Though don't quote me on that. But he says, "Please have mercy. Ra-an is the most loyal of subjects. Please spare his life this time." And Chagol just comments, "I do not care. Go and die fighting." And we see that whatever Chagol did to him, it looks like Ra-an, in that last panel on page 8, has lost his eye. Like, it's not just like beaten, it's not just like sort of injured. He's missing an eye. I'm assuming from Chagol's attack. And then Ra-an flashes back to when he first met Hak at the start of that fight. "I'm Hak, a new recruit of the Sky Tribe. Even if you take my head, it's just one of a rookie. Do you still want it?" And then he flashes back to Hak, flashes to the present, the Hak right before him. And Ra-an starts to tear up. Maybe like the thought that like Hak was far more kind to him than his own lord was. But Kaji presses, "What's wrong, General Ra-an?" And he just thinks, "I don't know." But Ra-an says aloud, "You're alive," and thinks, "I already missed the time we crossed swords against each other, even though I wish I hadn't survived." And Ra-an comments, "I'm glad we meet again." And Hak sort of teases him, "Why would you?" But Kaji's like back to the point. "General Ra-an, is he a recruit of your army?" No. He's an enemy. A soldier of Koka." And there's for a second I thought there was like a slight grin on Hak's face. It's decidedly neutral. It's like a flat line of a mouth. Like he's sort of accepted that like, you know, he's going to be outed here and he's going to have to fight as he will. But either way, one of the Koka soldiers says, "I knew it! How dare he deceive our army!" Then, and like, Hak just like, you know, creaks his neck ready for a fight. "We'll have to face head on." And Kaji tells Ra-an, "I invited him into our ranks. I'll take care of him." So Kaji, we see here, has a good deal more like respect for like I feel like this is where Chagol, in the aftermath that we just saw about Chagol right after the flood, would have like forced Ra-an to do it as like failure for killing Hak in the past. But Kaji is taking responsibility. "I'm the one who brought him here. I'll deal with him." I mean, he won't, but he's going to say he will. But Ra-an protests, "General Kaji, let me." And Kaji stops him. "What about your wounds? General Haitan would be sad." And Hak is like gets ready to fight. "If I stall him a bit, Koka's army will have a better chance. My body is hurting worse than death, but I won't die. There are things I must do." And he gets ready for a fight, and Han-dae joins him. But Hak stops him. "Han-dae, go back to your position." But Han-dae tells him, "This is my position. I promised General Tae-woo I would hold back the line." And Hak just comments, "Whoa, that gives me heart." And Han-dae is just, "That's what I wanted to say." So they're going for it. The Kai banner waves. But Hak is just, you know, whacking enemy soldiers down. I think like with the flag, actually. The flag, I think, covers one of the Kai soldiers, just lets out this, "I can't see." But then Hak sees something, and he goes to deflect, or to block Kaji's sword with his staff. And Kaji tells him, "The mother and child who said they were your family in the village are also criminals. They harbored a citizen of Koka and lied about it." I don't know why you need to tell Hak this, as like, at best this tells him nothing, and at worst, it makes him more angry at you, but okay. But Hak counters, "She simply helped a wounded person, regardless of their identity. That's pretty admirable. You should be proud." But Kaji snaps, "The kid also stole from me." But Hak tells him, "That wasn't yours to begin with. In any case, a general shouldn't speak so lightly of cutting off the fingers of a child who stole." But Kaji has this very sort of like, there's this sort of law and order idea at the heart of this argument that doesn't like they're not really debating. It doesn't feel like it's a debate the show is like super invested in. but it does show us a little bit of Kaji's like worldview. If I don't, the whole country will go down the drain. And before he can finish, Hak whacks him with the staff. Like, my point about the conversation is that it's not something. Sorry, I'm getting a phone call from Minneapolis. Don't know what that was about. But anyway, my point is not like this isn't like Chojin X, right? Where this is the sort of conversation that's like at the heart of a lot of Chojin X's drama. This isn't meant to be a big thematic piece. It's meant to be a little bit of showing who Kaji is, part of his worldview to better define him. It's not really exploring these themes. But anyway, Kaji is sent flying by Hak's staff. General Kaji! But Kaji, he grabs the spear of this infantryman and uses it to balance himself. The infantryman like falls off his horse. Kaji skids. Damn it! And thinks, that guy, is he really wounded? I mean, yeah, but you know, he's fucking Hak. But Hak goes to like question more of Kaji's worldview. Keeping order with violence. Is it that you're just disguising violence as justice, or have you abandoned common sense altogether? In any case, it's just excessive. Though we are seeing, it isn't quite, I guess I have to retract what I said earlier about it just being, you know, dressing for Kaji's character. We're examining it a little bit, but like not really, it's not really that important. But Kaji just yells at him, shut up! Preaching on the battlefield! And he goes for a swipe at Hak, and it looks like, so we see there's like, something shatters. Hak deflects it with his staff, and it looks like something breaks. There's like bits of rubble around them. Though it seems to not be from Kaji's sword, as Kaji is still going at him. For a second I thought it might be Hak's shoulder pads, but we see in the next panel Hak still has the shoulder pads. I don't know. As Kaji tells him, there's also a history of violent oppression in Koka. Don't you know what Yuhan did? I mean, yeah, that's a fair part of everything. Though that's a kind of textbook case of whataboutism. You know, Hak wasn't really responsible for Yuhan's actions. Yuhan is long since dead. But Hak fights back with his staff. Kaji blocks part of it, but it still hits him in the shoulder. And Hak counters, I'm talking about the present. At the very least, under Soo-Won's rule, no child's fingers has been cut off for theft. Okay, I want to take a moment to look at specifically the thing about... I'm trying to find the right way to phrase this, because there's something to dig at there. And it's the way Hak views Soo-Won. Like, we've reached the point, Soo-Won is no longer an enemy to Hak. He's no longer just like someone who they're begrudgingly on the same side as. Hak acknowledges Soo-Won as a good king. One who has his flaws, sure, that Hak doesn't really focus on right here. But still a good king. And as far as he knows, no child's fingers have been cut off for theft. That's the sort of blanket statement that's very hard to, like, definitively prove. Though given that a big part of the early days of Soo-Won's reign, I think, was, like, stamping down on that kind of lawless or corrupt governors that ill didn't really have the gumption to go after. Also, as an answer to my earlier what broke question on the previous page, we do see that Hak's left shoulder pad is like shattered, broken in half. So that answers that question. But Hak goes on, and less people need to steal to feed themselves. Even though he's done some unforgivable things, he treats his people the best he can. I believe in him. And Hak, so that's a huge shift from what we've seen from Hak in the past, and even Hak acknowledges that. As the next panel, it's not even really a panel, it's just the words, what am I talking about? Which, I want to pair this realization, right, this bit of Hak, with 2 chapters, I think 2 chapters ago, maybe 3 chapters ago, the bit of Soo-Won, you know, realizing that he cares more about Hak and Yona than he does about his high ideals of proper governance. Both that scene and this seem important in shaping Hak and Soo-Won going forward. Assuming, you know, this is why I'm hoping Soo-Won doesn't just die here, because that would just, like, tamper out all this character development he's having. As both of them are kind of realizing through, from Hak interacting with Soo-Won as king and sort of being part of the military and seeing him, and Soo-Won sort of being forced to have his cards on the table and see Hak be dead as far as he knows, and have to really reckon with that. They're both realizing they're not quite the people they thought they were. They're realizing that there's a lot more depth, more to the world than they initially believed. Anyway, what am I talking about? And Kaji, we see, is getting pretty battered. He's breathing heavy, out of breath. He's also lost a whole shoulder pad, which is something to note, I think. Because that's also where Soo-Won whacked him a couple pages earlier. Shut up. And he swipes at Hak, who just jumps over the blade. Pretty words, but King Soo-Won is the worst. Soo-Won stole Lady Maignon from Lord Choggle. Okay, so that's something to note, I think. Because last chapter, we also had the bit where Kaji seemed very concerned about rescuing Maignon. He's like, we have to win this war to rescue Maignon. Which feels like Kaji cares a hell of a lot more about Maignon than Choggle does. So there's something going on there. Do Kaji and Maignon have some deeper connection that we haven't seen yet? I don't know. But he kicks at Hak, and Hak just comments, damn, my wound reopened. And Kaji goes on, she went to Koka as an envoy and has since not returned. Soo-Won took her because she's beautiful. Or perhaps imprisoned her. And Kaji clearly doesn't know the facts here. And Hak is aware that's not really what happened with that story, and questions, isn't Maignon staying of her own accord? And Kaji is stunned. Don't be ridiculous. But Hak goes on, have you seen Lady Maignon? A lot happened. She's resting in the palace and doesn't want to return. Liar! Lady Maignon is Lord Choggle's favorite concubine. That's why Soo-Won captured. And Hak just stops him. That's not true. She eats well and isn't imprisoned. She's fine. Isn't imprisoned is a bit of a stretch. She's fine, I guess, but she is still under house arrest. It's not the same sort of prison that Hak was in very briefly, but it is still kind of a prison. But anyway, they hear the sound of the battle. Kaji turns to look. That's right. How's the battle going? We can't lose. I think here, we're sort of seeing Kaji's been so caught up in this fight, he's, to a certain degree, forgotten his duty as general. So he has to go make sure that, he hasn't completely fucked over the army. And he charges back at Hak and thinks, I'll ask Maignon about what he said when I meet her. But he's just going to ignore everything Hak's saying for now. He'll deal with that later, and charges. Ah! And Hak thinks, damn, I'm not at my best. If only I can land one more blow. And he seems to there's this image of someone, I'm assuming Kaji, getting sent flying. But he's still mostly, he's sent back a ways, but he lands on his feet. Oh, no. Kaji, it's not Kaji, it's someone else who was falling. Huh? Someone just fell from the sky. And Hak looks down, and it's a beaten, skewered, bloody Zeno. Zeno! Hey, Zeno! What happened? Zeno! And Zeno's of course healing. He's Zeno, he's not gonna die like this. Oh. Big bro, you're alive. How glad. You're a beast. Of course, this is actually the first time that Zeno's seen Hak since the flood. So this is news to Zeno. And Hak just comments, you too, these wounds, are all of you on the battlefields? And Zeno tells him, yeah. Arrows kept raining down, and I protected the prisoners with my body so they could retreat. Then I bumped into someone who's really bad news. And in all the chaos while trying to flee, I somehow ended up here. And Hak questions, bad news? Is this Zeno content after we last left him off? Or is this him just catching us up on what we already saw with this fight with Kura-U? Because it's been several chapters. Then someone comments from behind Hak, oh look, he's still alive. What fun, the dragons. And yeah, it isn't that Kura-U, which means Hak now has two generals to fight. And he was he was holding his own against one, but I'm not sure he can hold his own against another. And Kura-U taunts, "Hey Ra-an, Kaji, why are you slacking off here? It's your fault our army is having a hard time." And Kaji just stops him. "General Kura-U, why are you?" And Kura-U stops him. "Look, even if I gut him, he rejuvenates and does not die. The dragons would make good toys for Lord Chagall. I want to take him home, but even if I hurt him, he doesn't weaken." Okay, so last we left Zeno and Kura-U, I thought there was some question as to why Kura-U was what Chagall might have wanted with the dragons. Maybe he's after immortality or something. And thinks he can like drain that from Zeno, like an evil version of Ling from FMA, right? But no, I think he just wants to send Chagall Zeno so that Chagall can have fun killing someone over and over again. I want to take him home, and even if I hurt him, he doesn't weaken. But Kaji tells him, "We can do that later. For now, please return to your position." And Kura-U just glares at him. "You've gotten pretty arrogant, Kaji. You're just a teary-eyed kid running after Maignan. She isn't here to take a beating for you anymore." So now we're seeing a bit more clarity into what this backstory is between Kaji and Maignan. I haven't quite commented because I'm not quite sure, but there is something of a physical similarity between them. To be fair, I don't think we've seen even Maignan in color yet. Maybe she's on the latest volume. Let me see if I can find a quick picture. The thing mentioned 37 being the newest volume, and maybe I can find her on that. No, 37 is Hak. So I don't think we've seen any color image of Maignan at all, but she does bear at least slight similarity to Kaji. We also have not seen in color, to be fair, so it's all very sort of... The thing with black and white is that it's all very sort of, guesswork as to who looks like whom. But it's possible there is a family relation between Kaji and Maignan. At the very least, they were close while Kaji was a child. As Kura-U calls him a teary-eyed kid running after Maignan, it implies they've known each other for a long time. But anyway, Kura-U calls to Hak, still thinking Hak is a soldier of Kai, thanks to his armor. "Hey, you there. Tie him up so he can't move." But Hak tells him, "Oh, sorry about that. Even though I'm dressed like this, I'm a citizen of Koka. And this is my friend." And there's this really cool-looking, 2-page spread panel part. And I think... I'm trying to it's all very blurry. Hak, it looks like... My first impression is Hak jumps up and just stabs Kura-U in the chest, knocking him over. Shocking, everyone's still alive, or everyone's still conscious, all the named characters. Kaji, Ra-an, and Zeno all sort of look over at this. And Hak just bloodied looms over Kaji, to be continued on April 20th. So, is Kura-U dead? I don't know. Kura-U, for all of the 8 generals we've seen, is sort of the one with the least characterization. He's the least interesting to me. He's just kind of a dick. Is the sort of defining character trait right now. He makes a good villain, but he's also the general that we've met that I'm least upset about about dying already. He's just kind of an asshole. That's his whole personality so far. And that's not really a criticism. It's fine to have a villain who's just an asshole from time to time. But I'm less upset with him being dead than I would be about Kaji or Ra-an, who are at least interesting characters. But anyway, this chapter is pretty much entirely dedicated to Hak and Kaji. There's a little bit checking in on Yona and Soo-Won that lasts a single page, and really the only important thing there is they don't know what's going on, and Soo-Won is not long for this world. He is on his last fucking legs. But yeah, the rest of it is just a really fun sort of fight/slight moral argument between Hak and Kaji. I do actually really like the sort of Hak-Ra-an dynamic at this point. There's this sort of respect they have for each other. We see it in Ra-an as tears up seeing Hak is alive. I don't know. I already missed the time we cross swords against each other. I'm glad we meet again. But, like, even Hak shows concern for Ra-an. The whole, like, who did this, referring to Ra-an's new injuries, to a strong fighter like you, General Ra-an. As we see that, like, Troggle is just absolutely a monster. Absolutely kind of the worst. And I don't know what we're going to do with Ra-an from here on, but I do really like that dynamic they have. Like, Ra-an's a fun character, and I hope we see more of him. I hope he's not just, like, killed off in this arc. Or at the very least, I hope he gets a lot to do if he's only going to be a part of this arc. But Ra-an, too injured, is sort of left out of the proceedings of the chapter, and it's really Kaji who's left to fight Hak. And it's just fun. They're both, like, as a result of Hak's injuries, they're both roughly evenly matched. And it's just this fun back and forth, both in terms of the combat, but also in their dialogue. This sort of you know, to Kaji, you have to follow the law, as brutal as it may be, or else everything goes to shit. Hak doesn't really buy into that, which leads to their conflict. And you know, Kaji makes some, like, decent points that, like, Koka as a whole doesn't really have a leg to stand on, because Yuhan did some terrible shit. But also, it's also true that, like, Yuhan is dead. Yuhan's been dead for like 10 years now. He's not really the one in charge anymore. And Hak, I think, not entirely like I don't think this is something Hak has realized in the past and is now announcing his belief in Soo-Won. He, like, that what am I talking about implies to me that he's realizing that right here on the battlefield. This is the moment he's like, oh yeah, Soo-Won is not the worst. He's done some terrible things. I have plenty of reason to hate him. But, you know, I can't deny I'm not sure it's quite fair to call him the best king possible. Though that might just be my personal anti-monarchy bent. But he's far from the worst. He's not, you know, chopping off children's fingers. He's not beating up his subordinate for, like, not having a clean enough victory. You know, Choggle is far worse than Soo-Won right now. And that's the immediate threat. But then also that leads to larger questions of who Maignan is to Kaji. Because we see in the immediate aftermath of that, and in Kura-U's arrival, that there's, you know, some kind of history between Kaji and Maignan. And I'm very interested to see what exactly that is. Because it seems to be important to Kaji's character, and maybe Maignan's as well. But also, if they are kin in some way, that would make Kaji part of the Crimson Dragon tribe, right? I don't know. Maybe they're not kin. That's kind of a wild guesstimate, I suppose. But I do, just, like, looking at them in the black and white, picture both of them as having, like, similar silver hair, though that's a guess, I suppose. I don't know. But then, you know, Hak is just so pissed about Zeno's beating, he's not even listening to the Kaji Kura-U personal drama, that I think he just kills Kura-U right then and there. Or at least does some serious damage to him, given Kaji and Ra-an's shock. Because Hak, as we all know, is a fucking badass. What else can you say about the man at this point that hasn't already been said? He's a fucking badass, and we stan. So yeah, all in all, really, really fun content here. And I can't wait to see where all this goes next. So that said, I'm going to leave this video off here. Hope you enjoyed the chapter and the video itself. If you did, feel free to drop me a like or subscribe, or, you know, do whatever makes you happy, you know? And as always, your life is your own, okay? Bye!